From Dean Miller's tragic death that left Danielle Savory torn between two worlds, to Maya and Karina hitting rock bottom in Season 6. Here's the cast of Station 19 sharing heartbreaking moments from the show. And I'll start with the time the firefighters said goodbye to one of their own. In Season 5, one of the OG members of the gang, Dean Miller, takes a job offer to move to Oakland, which would have allowed him to expand Crisis 1, a program he created to send nonviolent first responders to intervene in nonviolent emergencies instead of police officers. But as Miller was trying to weigh the pros and cons of moving, the phone rang over at Station 19, and our firefighters were called to help with a gas line explosion that blew up several houses on a street.
Was that an earthquake?
Or a bomb.
Engine 19, ladder 19, 8 floor 19.
Yeah, there it is.
647, right after.
When the team gets there, they go door to door evacuating residents, and during that time, another house explodes right in front of them, with Dean lying on the ground, having been thrown by the blast. Seeing his buddy unconscious on the floor, Ben tried to resuscitate him in the ambulance as they head over to Seattle Grace, but the episode ends with Dean flatlining. Miller's death came as a huge shock to everyone, especially the fans, but even the cast wasn't ready to let go of a co-star like Okiriet Onao-Dawan. Danielle Savory, who plays Maya on the show, talked about how she had mixed feelings about Dean's tragic death in Season 5's Episode 5. On one end, she was happy for Onao-Dawan because his exit from the show meant he could now pursue other creative avenues, but at the same time, she felt torn between worlds because an original member of the series was gone. Rumor has it, Onao-Dawan was the one who asked the showrunners to write him off the show, feeling it was time to move on. And even though it was super sad that his character had to die in a fire like that, he said it was a pleasure being Dean, and thanked Shondaland for allowing him to bring him to life. Even though Krista Vernoff was one of the people who made the creative decision to write Oak out of the show, she was heartbroken over the loss of Dean Miller. She revealed that she was a better artist and human for having the opportunity to work with Onao-Dawan, and that she was going to miss writing for him, just like Daniela, who felt like the voice of reason in Station 19 was gone. Fans have been devastated since Miller's death. We know Shonda's an absolute magician with her pen, and every time she's written characters off from her shows, it's like a punch to the gut. Ryan Tanner's death in Season 3 was one of the first heartbreaks from the show, and boy were the fans a crying mess after that. In the episode Indoor Fireworks, Ryan goes off to Andy Herrera's apartment to profess his undying love for her once and for all. As one of Andy's closest friends, fans always rooted for the two of them because of how sincere his love for her was. But what could have been a magical night otherwise ends up in a shocking twist. The two ended up babysitting one of Andy's neighbor's kids at the end, who's a young boy just obsessed with playing cops and robbers.
Whoa, Milo, put that down. That's not a toy.
Milo, put the gun down.
Mommy's gun. Pew, pew, pew. Now you're the bad guy.
Somehow, the child finds a loaded gun in the apartment and took aim at the bad guy. That was Andy. When Ryan realized the gun was actually loaded, he jumped in front of the bullet, and despite Andy's efforts to save him, Ryan unfortunately passed away. When Alberto Frezza was asked about how he felt about his character dying, he admitted that he'd known about Ryan's death a couple of months after Season 2 ended. His agents had called him up, letting him know that ABC was considering the possibility of writing Ryan off, and soon also got a call from Krista, who explained why Ryan had to go. Frezas also revealed that his heart dropped when he first got to know of his character's fate, but at the same time, he was okay with the decision too, since he knew that Vernoff has a vision for the show, and Ryan's death was only a catalyst to make that happen. The showrunner wanted Andy to go through some darkness, and thought, what better way to do that than to kill her best friend? Yikes, I don't know, Krista. I'm sure there were other ways, but it's Shondaland, so I guess killing characters the way to go. Speaking of, Rigo Vasquez's death was pretty intense too, if I'm being honest. Sure, tensions were sky high when he found out that his wife Eva had slept with Jack Gibson, but Eva's affair with Jack was the reason why Rigo walked right into his own death. In the episode Satellite of Love, when Gibson tried to stop Rigo from using a fire extinguisher on what turned out to be liquid oxygen, Rigo refused to listen to him, and because of that, there was an explosion, which badly injured Rigo.
Hey, get your hands off me!
back then, the fans thought that Rigo would make a full recovery since his character was on the up and up. But in a shocking turn of events, Rigo died just before being discharged from the hospital, and just like that, he was gone. His death haunted Jack for years after that, as Rigo's ghost stalked the firefighter in season 6. But it wasn't his unexpected death that made fans upset the most. It was the way the show handled his departure. Station 19 never gave closure of how he died, despite seeming like he'd make a full recovery. It was until an episode of Grey's Anatomy aired that fans found out through Miranda Bailey that Rigo had a pulmonary embolism before he was about to go home, and that's when fans calmed down a little. While the actor himself never talked about how he felt about his character's exit, the cast was definitely shocked for him to go like that. Although I think if there's anyone who can one-up Rigo's death here, then that'd probably be Pruitt Herrera. Season 3 was the deadliest season of the entire series. It took out not one, not two, but 3 major deaths, from Ryan to Rigo and then Pruitt. Krista was on a roll, killing characters left and right, but the reason why Pruitt's death just hit differently was that he made the ultimate sacrifice to save his team, including his daughter Andy. Because of his terminal cancer, Pruitt knew he didn't have long to live, so when he heard on the radio that a storage facility had caught fire and had gotten out of control, he rushed to the scene.
Move this ladder into position. I'm going up.
I can't, sir. The roof is too unstable. Whoever vents that roof will fall in.
Copy that.
When he got there, many first responders were lost inside the building since there was no way to safely vent the roof. In that moment, Pruitt did the unthinkable and climbed up there to do something about it, even if that meant losing his life in the process. Many fans think that making Andy lose her dad was definitely Krista's big plan to put Andy through some tragedy, but everyone also agreed that this was a horrible way to do it. Brett Tucker also had a pretty devastating exit from the show. Chief Lucas Ripley almost had his happily ever after with Vic Hughes, if it weren't for him getting exposed to hydrofluoric acid when he jumped in to help during a coffee plant fire. As he was on his way to accept Vic's proposal in the episode, Always Ready, Ripley collapsed out of nowhere and was rushed to Grey Sloan Memorial. Grey's Anatomy's Dr. Maggie Pierce did her best to revive him, but sadly, she was unable to save him. What broke everyone's hearts even more was the fact that Vic sat next to Ripley right until the moment he died, which gave many fans flashbacks of Denny Duquette's death from the earlier seasons of Grey's. When asked if he knew his character's fate on the show, Brett Tucker admitted that he already knew at the start of the season that Ripley was gonna die, and that it was always on the cards too. Season 6 also had plenty of heartfelt moments on the show, but Maya and Karina trying to salvage their relationship takes the cake here. As Maya lies in the hospital bed, utterly exhausted and defeated, she calls out to her wife Karina, saying that the two of them would be done if she walked out of the room. Karina turns around, saying that she'd lose her wife either way, but she'd rather have her alive if that was going to be her fate.
I lose you either way, Bella. I'd rather lose you and have you be alive.
Maya starts to cry as Karina walks out, yelling at her in frustration, and that made fans even more upset. They went on Twitter to talk about how difficult it was to see the two of them like that, and one of them even admitted that the scene was too sad to watch. Danielle Savory and Stefania Spampinato definitely outdid themselves here, and from the looks of it, they were probably shaken after the director yelled "Cut to," and there you have it! From Maya and Karina hitting rock bottom in season 6, to Dean Miller's tragic demise that left Danielle Savory torn between two worlds. This was everything on the cast of Station 19, sharing heartbreaking moments from the show.